worth $36,000 right now, and you're probably enjoying or celebrating and being like, "Yeah, I didn't fold. I didn't let it go. I kept it, and now I'm going to be able to make some more money out of it." And the beginning of March was disastrous. The beginning of March 2020 was disastrous for major global markets when news of the coronavirus pandemic spread. Stock markets saw its fastest fall in history and its most dramatic since 1929. The hospitality and tourism sectors were among those that were hit the hardest as nations implemented travel restrictions and lockdown policies. These caused oil prices to plunge further in an already ongoing price war between Russia and Saudi Arabia. All the panic from the uncertainty the pandemic brought about by the pandemic led to a liquidity crisis before an economic crisis even set off. Investors frantically converted their holdings into cash to safeguard their finances. Unfortunately, the cryptocurrency markets wasn't spared this anxiety, and Bitcoin and other altcoins prices collapsed. But something happened. And to help me with this conversation, I have with me Caspar van der Elst. He's advisor to Verum Capital and a blockchain advisory boutique in Zurich. Hi, Caspar.
Mikey.
It's been a while, been a very long while since we met.
That's true. I just looked it up. I have been to Ghana in April 2018, so that's almost 3 years ago.
Wow, wow, wow. Almost 3 years. Great, but with technology, as always, we can be as oh, we're still in the same room having during that conference talking about cryptocurrencies.
Yes.
Yes, great. So, Casper, first off, I need my listeners to know who I'm talking to. I can see you. Those who are watching us on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter can see you too. But who is Casper? Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm originally from Holland, and I moved to Switzerland in 2005. When I lived in Holland, I studied technology management, and I got a bachelor degree over there. And in Switzerland, I joined the financial industry, as we all know from Switzerland, as an accountant for a hedge fund. And eventually that changed to accounting for private equity funds. And that's where I started to do an MBA. And during that MBA, I had to give a presentation in the economics classes about Bitcoin. That was in 2015. And that was for me the first time that I was confronted with the subject. That is where my journey in the rabbit hole actually started. I gave that presentation and I was very impressed about it. Also very skeptical, but still just very curious. And from that moment, I have never really let go. I continued to educate myself. I became a certified Bitcoin professional, and I joined Verum Capital in 2018 as a project manager for some blockchain projects. And I continue to believe that there are true benefits of decentralization that blockchain can bring to us.
Great, great, great. So, what exactly does Verum Capital do?
Verum Capital is a blockchain advisory boutique. They are helping institutional clients, so just companies, with their blockchain journey, let's say. So finding out if the blockchain can add some value to their businesses, and also guiding them with the project. So identifying the opportunities and then also helping them to implement those projects.
Great. So now, for the sake of those who don't know anything about cryptocurrencies, would like to give them a brief introduction to Crypto 101, if you may.
Yeah, so I think that all starts with Bitcoin, right? So I think Bitcoin is the mother of all cryptocurrencies, and the whole difference between a regular digital currency and a cryptocurrency, I think really is the fact that it is decentralized, so that it's not emitted by a central organization. That is combined with a lot of security and hashing and cryptography. And then you get to a very secure, decentralized system that is really giving us an opportunity for a new kind of organization that doesn't need to be organized in a central way, but can be organized completely decentralized.
Right. And since we all know Bitcoin is the mother of all cryptocurrencies, what other cryptocurrencies are out there that are also, worth looking out for?
So as of late, I probably people that are following this, Ethereum is the number 2 cryptocurrency, and that is rising at least as much as Bitcoin is. And if we compare it to 2017, then actually all cryptocurrencies were very much correlated. So if Bitcoin went up, then all the other ones went up as well.
Right.
And if Bitcoin went down, all the other ones went down as well. And that's different this time.
Right.
You can see that there are some clear winners, but there are some clear losers that either stay at rock bottom or even losing more.
Great. So, we heard about Ripple, we heard about Electronium, we heard about so many others. Even in Ghana, some people started their own cryptos. How is it something that is possible to catch up with Bitcoin?
That's a very good question, because what makes Bitcoin valuable and what are the factors that make a cryptocurrency more valuable, yes or no? And I think the fact that Bitcoin is the number 1 cryptocurrency has to do with the fact that it is the first mover. It was the first one that started it all. That it has just probably the biggest amount of people that know about it. And also just the experience, there's 10 years of experience. The Bitcoin blockchain started in 2009, so there's more than 10 years now,
right,
that the protocol exists. And that really makes the difference. Most people, when they talk about cash, talk about money, then they will not really start with some kind of new experiment. They will want to go to something that at least has some kind of experience.
right.
And what I mentioned, that all the factors that are working on a cryptocurrency, I think I also mentioned that 3 years ago. Is the things that I think about are legal factors, the technical factors, economic factors, the trend, and the usage.
Right.
So those are 5 things that I think that everybody needs to think about when they are looking at a cryptocurrency. And legal is something that really applies to the whole of cryptocurrencies, but it is different by country.
Right.
So that's very complicated to assess. The fact that you just mentioned Ripple before, Ripple is facing a lawsuit in the US, and for that reason, there's a lot of American exchanges that are delisting XRP from their exchanges.
Right.
But the exchanges in other countries are not doing that. So that makes it different again.
Right.
And then in the technical aspects, there is so much going on. There are so many protocol updates happening. So we could mention, we can also go a little bit deeper into this, the Bitcoin halving that happened earlier this year. That was in May. That is an event that happens once every 4 years. And that is something that goes together with some price movements as we have seen in the past. And what we learned from the past is pretty much happening again, that about half a year after the halving, you can see that the price is picking up again.
So what happens during that halving?
Yeah, so the Bitcoin blockchain is not decentralized by itself. It needs some kind of motivation for that. That's not a miracle. It is an economic interest attached to the blockchain protocol
Right.
that makes it decentralized. And that is called the block reward.
Okay.
So every participant that is confirming transactions in the Bitcoin blockchain is getting a reward for every block with transactions that it can find or confirm.
Right. That's the mining.
And that's the mining process,
Right.
exactly. In the first year that Bitcoin existed, the reward was 50 Bitcoin. So with every block that was found, there was a reward of 50 Bitcoin. And every 210,000 blocks of the Bitcoin blockchain, that reward is split in half. So that 210,000 blocks, that corresponds to approximately 4 years. So that means that after the first 4 years, it was split in 25 Bitcoin as a reward. And then it was split in 12 and a half. And now in May 2020, it was split in 6.25 Bitcoin. People would expect, typically, that if the reward decreases, then the interest in mining would also decrease because, there's a smaller reward.
Yeah.
But you could also argue that the amount of Bitcoin that is coming to market is also decreasing. And that, of course, is changing the supply and demand that is available. So the supply of new Bitcoin available on the market is also decreasing, and that could again increase the price of Bitcoin, because it's just if the demand continues to be the same and the supply is decreasing, then that would push up the price again.
Right. So is it safe to say that it's the halving and not COVID that caused the price of Bitcoin to spike?
It's never safe to say anything. It is very hard to say anything. There's no clear reason for this to happen.
Right.
Or let's say there's no single clear reason for this to happen. There are many reasons together that, of course, result in the situation that we currently have. But the halving definitely is a part of it.
Right. So then let's segue straight into COVID and the economy and cryptocurrencies, as the impact of COVID on cryptocurrencies. Prior to COVID hitting us, we had a time when Bitcoin really did spike. It went very, very high, almost about $20,000. A lot of people getting very interested and very anxious. Oh, I need Bitcoin at this point. And then it began to fall again. And then COVID hit. People were thinking that when COVID hit, Bitcoin was going to go up, because then there was the need for cashless payment, and people were thinking that, why? This is going to cause the interest in cryptocurrencies to grow. And did something like that happen?
It is a good question. I cannot really say it with certainty. I think there must be something to it. So there's a few things, right? I think there's more people sitting at home, so they have more time to investigate, whereas those same people might have been distracted with other things otherwise. There's also the increase of national debt. So all countries that are giving support packages, there's so much more debt in the monetary system, that you could ask yourself if people are maybe even buying cryptocurrencies with those kinds of amounts just to save themselves from possible inflation. And maybe also indeed just as a protection from inflation. I think that's also something that I always mentioned. I think cryptocurrencies are a great way of diversifying a portfolio just as a hedge against inflation.
Right. Now, we've mentioned prior to the conversation starting how Bitcoin has risen, and a lot of people have gotten very interested. Now the question, is it going to fall like it did before? Should people be interested in investing, quote unquote? I use investing as a very, very, sparsely, because it's people think that Bitcoin is something to invest in, not looking at it as what it actually is. So should people be interested in Bitcoin at this point?
So be interested, I think yes. So obviously, because I'm very interested in it. But investing in it, I find it so hard to give advice about that. It is so hard to predict in which direction it goes, exactly for the reason that I mentioned before, that there are so many forces that are working on cryptocurrencies, including the legal landscape, how countries and governments are reacting and acting on these developments is extremely important, of course, for the development. Nevertheless, I think it really doesn't hurt to allocate a very small amount of people's wealth into Bitcoin or another cryptocurrency, to also just try it out. That in the case that you would need it in the future, that at least you know what to do.
Right. So you'd advise that if anyone was going to go into Bitcoin, they go to it carefully.
Very carefully, yes.
And know what they're doing.
Yeah, also just to experience what exactly happens and how it feels when the value is changing maybe by as much as 20% per day, because that's what's happening.
Yeah.
It is crazy, but it's true. There are days that you are very lucky and suddenly your portfolio is worth more than 20%, but the opposite happens as well.
Which is very, very, very true. So, I mean, prior to this, we wouldn't have thought that there would have been another spike like it happened in 2017. But then, hey, here we are with a huge one, and it keeps growing. So, there's a possibility it's going to drop. How far? We don't know. But until that happens, this begs the question: does Bitcoins or cryptocurrencies in general make for currency that could be spent as the way we use our normal fiat currencies?
Yeah, good question. So when we go back to the technical factors, there's another one that's working on Bitcoin. And obviously, there's so many things. I spent already now more than 5 years of my time on different kinds of blockchain projects, and I still am surprised about many things. I definitely don't know anything, so don't take this podcast for 1 hour that covers the whole spectrum. It's just so much to find out. But one of the technical aspects that has been happening over the last few years as well is the launch of the Lightning Network. The Lightning Network is an additional layer over the Bitcoin network, where you can spend a very small amounts of Bitcoin, and you define those in Satoshis. Those are very small increments of Bitcoin.
So as we in Ghana would call pesos.
I'm sorry?
In Ghana, we would call those pesos, like the decimal point.
The cents.
Yeah, the cents, yes.
So in Bitcoin, a Bitcoin can be divided in 100 million Satoshis. So it's a very small piece of Bitcoin. And those Satoshis, you can send them over the Lightning Network at a lightning speed. Right. So it goes extremely fast. And it doesn't have the expenses that you would have with a normal Bitcoin transaction. Mm-hmm. And for that reason, it would be more suitable for actual day-to-day payments. So Lightning is actually giving up a little bit of security for convenience, but you should not think that it's not secure. It's just the case that a Bitcoin transaction is maybe more protection than we need for a $5 transaction. Mm. Nevertheless, when we think about Bitcoin, then the economic incentive that we have, the whole economic system, the fundamental behind it is that, like I said, the rewards of no Bitcoin are decreasing. So it's a deflationary supply that we are getting.
Right.
And because of the deflationary character, your purchase power opposed to other currencies that are inflationary are very likely to increase. Mm-hmm. So if I think about that, I think that Bitcoin, particularly for the future, for long-term investments, really is a store of value.
Yeah,
probably have heard this term many times. So currencies in general, so money, mm-hmm. We can actually define in three terms, and that is store of value, or medium of exchange, or unit of account. And those three properties don't necessarily need to be all with the same money, the same currency. So I believe that Bitcoin really is a store of value because of deflationary character. Mm-hmm. And a medium of exchange is typically a currency that is inflating shortly or just a little by little, because that stimulates you to consume, or at least it doesn't stimulate you to keep the currency in your wallets. Mm. And if we think about that, then Ethereum is actually more of a spending cryptocurrency than is Bitcoin.
Cool. So for those listening, if you don't know what Ethereum is, it's also another cryptocurrencies. At this point, I'm going to invite your messages on WhatsApp. You can send us a message on 055 111 997 055 11 11997 055 11997. Send us a WhatsApp message and ask us any question. We're talking about cryptocurrencies, the impact of COVID on it, especially because right now we're looking at one Bitcoin equaling about $35,000 to $36,000. And so back to you, Caspar. I saw an article online about JP Morgan tipping Bitcoin as digital gold. Now, that means that people are considering Bitcoin becoming the next gold, but digital. What's your take on that?
So my take on that is something that I've read in a book. Right. It's a book called The Bitcoin Standard by Saifedean Ammals. Saifedean Ammals is a Libyan economist, if I'm not mistaken, and he has written a whole book about the economics of Bitcoin and where it can be compared to and where it is likely to go in the future. And his conclusion is that Bitcoin is harder to produce, harder to create than gold. And that is for the fact that gold will be digged as a function, or gold will be mined and found as a function of the price. If the price would double, so it would increase really by much, then more people are incentivized to search for gold and to build new machines for it and so on. And because of that, there would be more supply. And if there's more supply, then the price would fall again. But with Bitcoin, that's not the case. The Bitcoin reward is really fixed in the protocol. So even though more people would try to buy it, the supply would remain completely the same. Or the increase of it, the new supply of it. And because of that, it's even harder than gold. And in many of those ways, and for many of the reasons that Safedin describes, I really think that we can compare it a little bit to gold, yes.
So you actually foresee that it's possible that in the near future, some central banks, quote unquote, may start to invest in Bitcoin as a gold reserve, digital gold reserve?
I wouldn't be surprised if they already do this a little bit. And we just don't know.
Great. Okay, so now the question is, there's a need for digital financial services all over the world, considering where we've come to with COVID. Ethereum, Ripple, all these other cryptocurrencies that are actually easier to spend. Is there a possibility of them actually replacing fiat currency?
So my personal opinion is that it's not very likely. I don't think that that's going to happen. So I remember a slide that I presented in 2018, and there I talked about trust. So I think that we should see a balance with on one side we have centralized currencies, and those centralized currencies are US dollars, British pounds, Japanese yen, and so on. And then decentralized currencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and maybe some other ones. And I think that the value of the decentralized currencies is going to increase if the trust in the centralized currencies is decreasing. And that is going to be a balance. I think the one will not exclude the other. It's the same as with real post and email. Although email is prevailing now for most of our exchanges of letters, there still are some things that need to be sent by post. And actually, over the COVID time, we experienced how relevant our postal delivery is for packages instead of letters. So you have now both these systems, and the same counts for currencies, in my opinion. You will have centralized currencies and decentralized currencies, and sometimes one will prevail over the other.
So until today, I'm sure a lot of people didn't know we had centralized and decentralized currencies, but now they know. So I've got a few messages. Someone says, please find out, how does one subscribe to Bitcoin in Ghana? I've been duped by some few times by supposed cryptocurrency traders. That's interesting. Okay, so I'll let Caspar answer that real quick. Caspar,
Sure.
I hope you caught that.
So I'm not really sure about the options in Ghana, but there are some exchanges, some cryptocurrency exchanges that are global.
Yeah.
And the biggest cryptocurrency exchange that currently exists is Binance. Binance has a global website and an app where people can subscribe and need to go through KYC. And then once they have done this, then they can load some cash on their account through a credit card transaction, maybe also through a banking transaction, and then you can exchange that for Bitcoin or another cryptocurrency. I think that is the most used option for gaining Bitcoin.
Well, I think a lot of people seem to think that getting Bitcoins, you need to go somewhere, someone needs to do it for you, not realizing that you can actually get your own wallet online and just buy it. It's like getting a Bitcoin wallet or any crypto wallet is like just getting any online account and then buying it in an exchange. So yeah, just join the.
I guess I guess, Spiky, you know some exchange in Ghana that would
Yes.
offer an app or something like it. You
Yeah.
probably have something, right?
Yeah, there's some. Unfortunately, I can't share it because I'll be giving them free advertisement. But then,
Good.
yeah, if we will share that information later on privately, so it's not broadcast for free. So we've got another
Sure.
question. Hi, Spiky. That's a revealing conversation that you guys are having. You've asked almost all the questions I was building up to ask. Happy New Year from Tom Brown. I'm glad I asked your questions, Tom Brown. We've got another question. Hi, Geek Squad. I purchased an amount of $10 Bitcoin somewhere in 2017 just for trial purposes. After a period, I tried purchasing other cryptos with my Bitcoin, but I realized the amount charged for a transaction is more than was in my Bitcoin wallet or my blockchain account. Now my account has grown to $15 worth of Bitcoin, but I still cannot transact. Is there a way I can go about this without the charge? Do I need to deposit more to be able to transact? That's from Kwame Richard in North Kanishi. So yeah, the charges.
The charges.
Yeah.
Yeah, the charges are sometimes ridiculous.
Mm.
We have to distinguish two different kinds of charges. The first charge is trading fees.
Right.
So if you are trading on an exchange, then exchanging Bitcoin into Ethereum or US dollar into Bitcoin or any other currency into Bitcoin, there will be an exchange fee, and those are typically not very high. So if you have $15 in your account, in your exchange account, then it should be no problem to change that to Bitcoin or to change that back to dollars, or to change it into another currency. But getting it out of your exchange, that is something different. So then you need to talk about a transaction fee. So if you have a Bitcoin wallet and you want to transact your Bitcoin to another wallet or to an exchange or another exchange, then that is a transaction that needs to be recorded on the blockchain. And that goes hand in hand with a transaction fee. So remember that I talked about the block reward. That is not the only incentive that miners get for supporting the network. They get actually the block reward plus the total amount of transaction fees that are confirmed in that block.
Right.
And that transaction fee was initially, like 5 years ago or 10 years ago, it was a very small amount. But because the place is limited within each block, the amount of transaction fees has grown. And it means that currently making a transaction costs about $20, I think. So it is quite expensive to confirm a transaction on the blockchain. And that's also why you don't want to buy a cup of coffee with that. And that's why the Lightning Network that I talked about is one of those solutions where you can actually transact almost with negligible transaction
fees. Right. Great. So let me check if we have another question. But Michael, who's the other geek in the studio, has just given me a website where you can check to see where you can buy Bitcoin or find a Bitcoin exchange, and it's buybitcoinworldwide.com. You go in there, you put your country, and then you choose your payment method, and it tells you which exchange in Ghana accepts that payment method, or your country, whichever country you put in there. Yeah. Kobby Spiky Nkrumah, Happy New Year to you. Still counting on you for the Google Pixel 3a phone for my New Year gift. Please. But are we safe if we one day wake up and there's no more Bitcoin again? That's Douglas from DC. Douglas wants to know, are we safe? Will we wake up one day and there will be no more Bitcoin?
It depends how many Bitcoin you have. So if you converted your whole wealth into Bitcoin, then obviously
you should be worried.
You lost a lot.
Yeah. But is that possible? Is that something that could happen?
Now, this is something that many people that are not a fan of Bitcoin are predicting, that one day it's a hype, it will disappear.
Yeah.
I find it extremely unlikely that it will happen. And that for the simple reason that it only needs one node that continues mining the transactions for Bitcoin to continue to live. And as there are so many supporters all over the world for this network, it is almost impossible. And let's also not forget that the protocol has now been up for more than 11 years without 1 hour of outage. And that is something that very few networks can confirm. So it is very stable. And it's very unlikely to disappear.
Right. Now let's talk about regulation across the world. Every country has different regulations. Oh yeah, and there's even a question here that's asking something about Bitcoin becoming legalized in Ghana, and he's asking about Picoin, is if it's the same. That's Max texting from Tema Community 17 actually. Yeah, so Casper, legalization, regulation and legalization. A lot of countries are not legalizing Bitcoin because they're not sure. And because of that, there are no regulations that are protecting people against so many transactional errors, or maybe exchanges that are not legalized. Is there any prospect, or is there any possibility that this would happen for almost every country as soon as possible, or it's independent to every country?
It really is country by country. And I remember there is a Wikipedia page dedicated to this topic, the legality of Bitcoin in your country. And then there, I think, is a table that shows you the country, and then if it is a legal tender, yes or no, if there's any clear statements opposed to any kind of cryptocurrency in that country. And I remember that a few years ago, so I didn't look at this page for a long time, so I don't know if something changed. But I think that the number of countries that really are opposed to cryptocurrencies, so that really make it an illegal activity to have or transact with Bitcoin, that number of countries is only 6 in the world or so. I think it's really very low. So I would suggest if people have any doubt or question about regulation, you really need to look it up by country. I cannot make any general statements about it.
But is it possible that certain countries could influence other countries to make decisions on crypto?
Well, probably yes. I mean, all countries are connected, right? And if a few countries are playing a main role into either banning cryptocurrencies or in supporting it, then it's likely that other countries will follow. It really depends on how it works and how it turns out. I think many countries are just, looking on the sideline to see how this is actually evolving, because even though Bitcoin exists now more than 10 years, that still is a relatively short period of time. And then all those other cryptocurrencies are even younger than that. Yeah. So I think cryptocurrencies are really on the map only since something like 4 or 5 years. And countries are very careful to make any official statements about it because they are afraid of the implications.
So what if this whole digital gold agenda that JP Morgan was proposing does happen? Do you think that could influence regulators governments into, legalizing bitcoins as legal tender in countries?
Yes. Again, I think they would maybe not actively support it, but they would not actually forbid it. So, they probably leave it a gray zone. As long as possible. That's my expectation.
Great. Now, speculation. When it comes to cryptocurrencies, that's one thing that's always fueling them, speculation. As we stand right now, we can see that people are speculating that it's going to go high. This whole JP Morgan article is also just basically speculation. Should people really bank on this speculation? And when are we going to be rife from this speculative attitude with cryptocurrencies? When are we going to know that, okay, fine, this is happening, and therefore the price is going to go up? Like, for instance, we know if oil prices go up because of something. So the moment you see that action happening, you know the oil prices are either going to go up or go down. Is that something that could happen to cryptocurrencies?
Well, yeah, of course, there can be more profound reasons for the prices to move. But like I said in the beginning, it is always a mixture of aspects that is moving the prices, and the number of aspects that is working on cryptocurrencies is so high that I think all of it is speculative. And actually, Bitcoin starts to really be already quite a mature cryptocurrency. You have less of a security risk over there and a legal risk over there because it has been around already for such a long time. It's really with all the newer projects where this is a higher degree of speculation. And I would almost say that Bitcoin is not only speculation, but also really a bit of protection for the sake of diversification. So if anybody is maintaining an investment portfolio, then the first thing they learn is that diversification is so important. Don't put your eggs all in one basket. And therefore, allocating a small portion to cryptocurrencies is maybe not as speculative as some people would argue.
All right. Okay, so if you're listening to us and you'd like to join in the conversation, you have some questions for me or Caspar, you can call on 0302-216-541, 0302-216-541. Or if you want to send a WhatsApp message, it's 055 111 997 or 055 111 997 or 055 11 11 997. Do we have another question out there? Yes. So Winston says, Google services went out for about 2 hours in December. Did that affect the Bitcoin blockchain in any way?
Good question. Do you know? I don't know.
I really doubt it, since, it may have affected certain exchanges that were running on Google, servers, or maybe any service that was powered by Google. But for the blockchain network that powers Bitcoin, I very much doubt it. Yes.
I think so too.
Yeah, and then now finally, volatility. The volatility of cryptocurrencies. I want you to give me a short lecture, since we're almost out of time, on the volatility of cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, so where shall we start?
Before you get to that, we've got a caller. We've got a caller. Hello?
Okay.
Hello?
Hi, your name and where you're calling from, sir?
Yeah, I'm calling from Makati.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to ask about the legal implications of some of these, because recently I think there's a class suit against Ripple and other, how do you call them, altcoins will be following suit. So what do you have to say about that?
Okay. So, Caspar, he was mentioning the legality about cryptocurrencies, considering that there's a class action lawsuit against Ripple and some other altcoins?
Yeah, and I think it's very important to look at those single situations. So we cannot speak for all the cryptocurrencies as one, but in this case, if we talk about Ripple,
Right.
then it looks like Ripple has sold $1.3 billion worth of XRP, which was their cryptocurrency, in an ICO. I think it was the year 2015.
Right.
And they did that without the usual regulations, without respecting the usual regulations that apply in the US. And Ripple is a US company. So if you look at that from an outsider perspective, then that actually sounds like something that was illegal, and that Ripple's being sued for it. Yeah, that's something that can happen. Nevertheless, many ICOs have happened for other cryptocurrencies where they were started in other countries, and they have not been sued. They also had smaller amounts raised, and there is also the situation of Bitcoin where there is no ICO. Okay. So this also touches upon the fact that a cryptocurrency can come to life through this process of mining, where the new cryptocurrencies are not sold to an investor initially, but they are created by the protocol to incentivize people to keep the protocol alive. And the ICO, where actually a project with a team behind it is selling these tokens to other people to finance their project in the hope that this is going to be the next Amazon or another unicorn company.
Right. So basically, just like a startup telling people to buy shares, and then when we blow up, you have such a large portion of it. Okay, so based on what you're saying, then it would make no sense. I mean, it would be advisable to invest in a coin or in a cryptocurrency that's not backed by an ICO, but is backed by a protocol like mining.
Well, it depends, of course, if the ICO is for a company that actually has good perspectives.
Okay.
A good example of a good ICO is Binance. So when I mentioned Binance 20 minutes ago, it is the largest exchange that currently exists, and it only spun out in 2017. So that's 3 years ago. I honestly don't know for what price those tokens were sold, but it was a very small amount. And currently I see that Binance coins are sold for $40 each.
Wow.
I think it is one of the most profitable tokens that is out there.
Great. Now, until we have another call, I'll just let you touch on that volatility before we round up.
Sure. So volatility is about the movement of the prices, right? And it really is very hard for a normal equity trader to live with the kind of volatility that we have in cryptocurrencies, because it is impacted by all the 5 items that I mentioned before: the legal, the technical, the economic, the trend, and the usage of those cryptocurrencies. But it also just happens with such speed. And the hype factor makes it very hard to follow. So it can really be that a project is very successful in 2017, and very shortly thereafter it is declining by 90%. For that reason, also there not only diversifying between other investments and cryptocurrencies, but also within cryptocurrencies, it is advised to to diversify in a few different cryptocurrencies, right, to try to avoid too much volatility in your portfolio. But the point is that you will have to live with daily price movements of 20% and annual price movements of something like 90%. So you must have a very strong stomach to deal with those kinds of volatility.
Great. So all too soon we ran out of time. It's been a very interesting conversation. I've been speaking to Casper van Est. He's currently in Zurich, and we've been having a Zoom conversation. Those of you who've been watching on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube, you've been, paying attention to what we've been discussing. We're discussing the impact of COVID on cryptocurrencies. And Casper is also the advisor to Verum Capital, which is a blockchain advisory boutique. And yeah, I believe a lot of us have learned a lot. Michael, did you learn something?
What?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you everyone for listening. Big thanks to Prince Safo, my producer, Dennis, the fair boy, Selwyn, and Abeku. I'm not going to give a shout out to Prof as usual, but yeah, he's here. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you everyone for listening. After the show, it's available on podcast on Google and Apple. You can watch the live stream again on Facebook and on YouTube. Thank you once again, Casper, for joining. My name is Kobby Spiky Nkrumah. This has been Geek Squad. Up next is the news. We're out.